Thieves, scammers, and shady sellers, Pawn Stars has seen them all. But when the cameras roll and the lies start cracking, some of the boldest crooks on TV get exposed in real time. And sometimes, they don't even realize how deep in trouble they really are. Today, we're cracking open some of the wildest, shadiest, and most downright dangerous moments ever to walk through the doors of the gold and silver pawn shop. Why do people keep trying to scam one of the most famous pawn shops on the planet? And how do Rick, Corey, and Chumlee keep catching thieves who think they're smarter than the experts? Number 5. The illegal Tortoise-Shell guitar. Our countdown starts with a deal that wasn't just risky for the wallet, it was risky for federal law. A man walks into the gold and silver pawn shop carrying what looks like a gorgeous acoustic guitar. Warm tone, beautiful shine, eye-catching detail. At first glance, this thing looks like every musician's dream. But it's not the strings, the wood, or the sound that gets Rick's attention. It's what the guy claims the guitar is made from. Real tortoise-shell.
Yeah, I've never had anyone ask me if it's legal to sell their guitar, and that would explain why. It's a tortoise-shell.
The mood in the room shifts instantly. This isn't just rare, it's a legal minefield. Real tortoise-shell has been banned from trade since the early 1970s because of wildlife conservation laws. We're talking serious federal regulations, the kind of stuff that doesn't care whether you didn't know. Rick breaks it down in that calm, almost too relaxed voice he gets when something is actually very, very serious.
So in the early 70s, the trade in tortoiseshell was banned.
He compares it to owning a bald eagle feather. You can't just shrug and say, "Oops, my bad." The law doesn't work like that. If the guitar was made before the ban and properly documented, owning it could be legal. But selling it? That's a whole different story. Any instrument containing real tortoiseshell made after the ban is basically radioactive in the legal world. The problem? There's no paperwork, no manufacturing date, no official record, nothing to prove Chum when this guitar was made, or whether it's even authentic tortoiseshell in the first place. Rick does what he always does, calls in backup.
I have a friend with a store right down the street, so he might know the laws on it.
A specialist confirms the guitar could be valuable and maybe even legal to own, but selling it is a massive risk that could trigger federal wildlife charges on national TV. Rick wisely passes. The seller, joking he can't risk jail with 2 daughters at home, leaves, both men realizing how close things came. Number 4. The fake diamond disaster. Before Pawn Stars was a hit TV show, before tourists lined up outside the shop, before Rick became a meme machine, there was just a dusty Las Vegas pawn shop, a tough old man, and a young Rick still figuring it all out. And back then, they got burned. Badly. In the early days of the shop, something new quietly crashed into the jewelry world. Cubic zirconia, CZ.
One of the biggest losses I probably ever took in this business is back when CZs first came out.
At a glance, it looked just like a diamond. It sparkled, it flashed under the lights, and to the naked eye, it was nearly impossible to tell the difference. The worst part? It didn't just fool people, it fooled the tools. The gem testers that pawn shops relied on weren't built for this new imposter. Those devices often lit up for CZ the same way they did for real diamonds. So when someone walked in with what looked like a stash of high-quality stones, the old man did exactly what any seasoned dealer would do. He tested them. They passed. Again and again. Convinced he was staring at a gold mine, he paid full diamond prices. But this wasn't just one stone. It was a lot of stones. By the time the truth came out, that CZ was synthetic, mass-produced, and worth a fraction of real diamonds, the shop had eaten a devastating loss.
Close to 25, 30,000 on that, but it was a lesson learned.
Rick estimates they took a hit of 25,000 to 25,000 to 25,000 to 30,000. Instead of folding, the Harrisons adapted. They upgraded equipment, educated staff, and rewrote their policies. That painful CZ disaster became the lesson that later protected them when Pawn Stars went global. Number 3. The Penn State Bull Ring with a missing identity. Now, we move into a deal that looks totally legit on the surface, but underneath, something feels off. A guy walks into the shop with a 1973 Penn State Orange Bowl championship ring. It's stunning. Heavy gold, crisp details, the kind of piece hardcore college football fans and collectors dream about. He tells Corey he wants $1,500 for it.
I think it's worth at least $1,500.
Not outrageous at all for a championship ring. Then comes the story. He claims it once belonged to a player named Jeff Jade Clark, who supposedly needed cash and sold it years ago.
You know, I went to Penn State and guy down the hall played on the team, and he needed some money, and I bought it back then.
Corey and Rick inspect the ring, checking the team information, the year, and the design. Everything seems to line up with Penn State history. For a moment, it looks like a solid buy. Then Corey spots the deal breaker. The engraving is gone, not faded, not worn, completely filed off. That engraving is the ring's identity. Removing it is like scratching the VIN off a car and trying to sell it. Corey explains that pawn shops legally cannot buy items where identifying marks have been intentionally removed. It practically screams stolen. The seller insists it came that way, but Corey isn't biting. No counteroffer, no haggling, just a hard pass. On Pawn Stars, that ring isn't a bargain, it's a legal time bomb. Number 2, the submarine with a surprise owner. You think you've seen everything in a pawn shop. Watches, guitars, cars, swords, coins. And then one day, someone walks in and says, "I've got a submarine to sell." Yes, a one-man submarine. It's not something Rick can just throw on the counter, so he drives out to the woman's house. In her yard sits a bulky, faded, almost cartoonishly weird submersible. It looks like a leftover prop from a bargain bin James Bond knockoff. She wants $25,000. Rick immediately starts poking holes in the deal. He doesn't know who made it, if it works, what's missing, or even if there's a market for yard sale submarine. He offers $2,000.
Offer you a few $1,000s, and I don't think you're going to take that.
After some haggling, they land on $2,000. After some haggling, they land on $3,000. And Rick drags the sub back to Vegas.
I'll give you $2,000 for it.
Can't do that.
I'll go $3,000. That'd be it.
All right, got a deal.
Hoping he scored something special. He calls in a submarine expert, and the verdict is brutal. It's not military, not the brand she claimed, not a collectible, and it needs a complete overhaul. Restoring it would cost around $100,000.
You're probably looking at $100,000 to fix it up.
Already a bad buy. And then it gets worse. A man watching Pawn Stars at home suddenly sees his missing submarine on TV. Lawyers get involved, ownership is challenged, and in the end, the sub goes back to its rightful owner, leaving Rick with nothing but a bizarre loss caught on camera. Number 1, the stolen shekel of Tyre. At the top of our list is a story that blends ancient history, modern crime, and classic Pawn Stars chaos. A guy named Ryan walks into the shop with something that looks like it came straight out of the pages of the Bible, a shekel of Tyre.
What do you got here?
It's a shekel of Tyre, like from the Bible.
This is the same kind of coin that's famously tied to the 30 pieces of silver story. Whether or not this exact coin was part of that moment, it's still a powerful piece of religious and historical significance.
And even though we can't prove that this is one of the infamous 30 pieces of silver from the Bible,
Chumlee takes one look at it and delivers a line that instantly ages like milk. "We only buy American coins, man."
Yeah, we only buy American coins, man, so.
Which, of course, is not remotely true. Rick walks in right on cue, grabs the coin, and you can almost see the gears turning. He recognizes it immediately. He starts explaining how these coins were hammered by hand.
they struck these with a hammer that was 4 feet long, and the hammer had the face on it. And they literally stood 4 feet back and struck it. Even the most skilled guy with that hammer was never going to get a perfect strike every time.
How the uneven strike patterns and edge details help confirm authenticity. Everything about the coin checks out, except for one big problem. It's been cleaned. In the coin collecting world, cleaning an old coin is like repainting a vintage Ferrari with spray paint from a hardware store. You ruin the natural patina, you damage the surface, and you crush the value.
Now the big question is, how much do you want for it?
$2,000.
It's old.
Ryan wants $2,000. Rick always calculating, counters at $1,400. The two go back and forth, finally landing on $1,600. Rick pays, Ryan walks out, and for a brief moment, it looks like the shop just scored a beautiful, rare, biblical-era coin. Then Security Chief Andy walks in. He brings the kind of news that makes every pawnshop owner's stomach drop. The police think the coin might be stolen and want it placed on hold.
An out-of-town detective has called Las Vegas police. The shekel that you recently brought in, there's a chance it might be stolen. They want to put it on hold.
If it turns out to be stolen, and the original owner gets it back, Rick loses the money and the coin. No refund, no return, nothing. For days, the fate of that shekel of tire hangs in the balance. Finally, Andy comes back with an update. The original owner had already been compensated for the theft. Because of that, the police released the coin back to the shop. Rick cracks open the protective case, re-examines the coin, and confirms, yes, it's genuine. He actually won this time.
It's real. See, I told you.
Good for you. After 30 years in the coin business, you got it right.
But does anyone in the shop let him enjoy the victory? Of course not. The old man and Chumlee absolutely roast him. Good for you. After 30 years, you finally got one right. Even when Rick wins a high-risk, high-reward deal on a biblical coin that might have been stolen, he still ends up as the punchline at home. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the wild world of Pawn Star scams and close calls, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another breakdown. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.